Life is complex.
So is our mental health. It cannot be understood by diagnosis alone.
Our philosophy is treat the person, not the mental illness.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Humanizing Mental Health. I'm Trent Akers.
I'm Jeremy Alcorn.
And I'm Amy Alcorn.
Well, I'm curious. When we're recording this, it's the beginning of summer movie season. So you guys seen any good movies lately?
Yes.
Yes. Well, okay. Fair enough. Okay.
No.
Yeah. No. Okay. No.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, maybe I'm bearing the lead here a little bit, but we've actually all seen what would be a relatively recent movie. If you're watching this or listening to it, of course, it's Inside Out 2, and we've talked a lot about. We've done a few things on the show about basically using story as therapy, but actually cinema can be therapy too as well.
Yeah, in fact, years ago when I worked in a teen program, every single Friday we went into a theater that was in the hospital and we watched popular culture movies and brought out themes in them as to how they relate to life. And it's a great externalizing way of doing things. I think that this particular movie set, Inside Out and Inside Out 2, is much more overtly connected to some very specific therapy theories.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah. So maybe we would just give a general overview and then our thoughts for those of you that maybe have not watched the movie yet or want to watch it and then come back to our podcast. We don't want to go into any spoilers, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. We're going to be talking about things. If you haven't seen the movie and you want to see it, then maybe wait to listen to this before you've seen it.
Yeah. So so just in general, Inside Out and Inside Out 2 follows the emotions inside. First, I believe Riley is 11 in the first film, and she turns 13 in the second, and it's all basically about them learning to work together and learning major lessons about the importance of different emotions or different memories. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think when you connect it directly to therapy, that this is an example of how internal family systems functions.
Yeah, no, very, very much so. And interestingly enough, when they were working on the first film, because I've actually done a deep dive into this film, the various psychologists and mental health professionals that they contacted, one of them is well versed in internal family systems, and they used this specifically to inform the film, at least the first one. So before we go into the nuts and bolts of the second film, do you guys want to just give a general rating of what you think or an idea of what it's like?
Like an out of 10 type of rating?
Sure. Yeah. I'll use the old therapy scale that I use with a lot of my clients. 10 being awesome, 1 being terrible.
Man, I haven't rewatched the first one since 2016, so I feel like that wouldn't be a very good comparison. But I really liked both of them. I felt like they both stood up pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. So if we're just looking really at the second film, because I think that's the one that we've all seen.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to compare.
No. Just as a standalone, just the second film, how would it rate? Just in and of itself.
I'd probably say an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
There were some things that kind of annoyed me, but overall it was a pretty good film.
Okay. Can you talk about what generally annoyed you without going into spoiler territory?
Well, and I think actually, we're going to go in depth with this, right?
Yeah, I know.
I feel like we're gonna have to spoil.
Yeah. People are just gonna need to know if they want to see the movie before they listen to this. They'll need to.
Yeah, no.
Stop this and watch the movie.
Okay, so you're 8.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely give it. I would say probably a good, 8.5. There are some things that I would prefer that would be different. And yourself, Jer?
Yeah, I would give it somewhere between a 7 and an 8. Yeah.
So because we know that from a therapeutic standpoint, 7 is where we're entering into slightly dangerous territory.
Mm.
Yeah,
Like below that, you go, oh, what's wrong then?
yeah.
Mm. But that's particularly when you're talking about therapeutic alignment. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
For sure.
I know that. That's why whenever I give movies rating, people are like, why are you rating it so high? Because I come at it from a that therapeutic alignment standpoint where it's like, let's not go into the yellow. But yeah, so in general, I think then the consensus would be okay. So 8 was 16 plus 7.5. So is it
23 and a half.
23 and a half divided by 3. So we'll say it's like 7.5 overall, or close to.
Yeah. We're not mathematicians, that's for sure.
Yeah. No. So
Too early in the morning.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. No, this is not a statistics show, ladies and gentlemen.
Because I think that if it was an average of 7.5 and 7.5 was the lowest it was rated, then that doesn't match up. But yeah, overall, certainly from the three of us, somewhere around an 8.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for those who haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. And you want to pause it, come back. Like now we'll go into a bit of a spoiler. So,
Gotcha.
So in general, what did you guys? What did you guys think of the general plot of the film?
Well, not a lot of people know this about me, but I like writing books. So when I watch a movie, I really look for like the story structure of it.
Mm-hmm.
So with this movie, kind of coming from that, I was like, they don't need all these new characters. I feel like there's too many characters. Like I kind of felt like they didn't really need anxiety because fear and anxiety are like so similar. That I thought it would have been more effective if they just had fear take over.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the other emotions are kind of like extensions of the previous emotions, like embarrassment. That's kind of like disgust, but with yourself.
Well, or envy too as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like really, when I look at that, like it's really getting into emotional granularity. So it's really giving younger audience members or audiences more understanding of emotions so that they can more clearly define things, which is great. But one thing that I really picked up on is that all of the negative emotions got like a second or third avatar. Joy was the only one that didn't. So I mean, this is also where I think this is one of my theories about the movie itself, where I think that Riley's parents may be a little bit positively or have a bit of toxic positivity.
Yeah, for sure. Like that was definitely one of the main themes in the first film. Not just their parenting. You see that in their parenting, but certainly from her own position of feeling like she has to always be happy.
One thing that kind of bothered me, and I think you and I talked about this too as well, is that really the second film is a better version of the first, where they basically go over the same general lesson, but it's they're integrating internal family systems and CBT, and they're not going into a lot more psychological theory like with Bing Bong and with abstract thought.
Yeah, for sure. And also in the film, when there's this like deep dark secret that's locked away, it doesn't end up being in any way resolved. It was something that seemed to be a very big thing in the film, but then in the after credits, if people didn't stay to watch it, you should. It's just a simple like mistake that was made, and I thought that missed something important that could have been fundamental in the psychology of this young woman.
Oh yeah, very much so. Because I mean, how many of us, because when you look at thought distortions, because they do bring in a lot more CBT in terms of like, your core memories, core thoughts of yourself. How much of that would have been interesting and almost like what are other some deep dark secrets?
Yeah, like the fundamental belief about self, was critical in this film, and that is very much so a cognitive behavioral construct. And interestingly enough, though, with that, like you say, there's a bunch of other things that are woven into it, in terms of the whole individual, for sure.
Yeah, and like when they talk about that, like if you remember back to the first film, like they had like those core memories that were attached to those islands, which I do want to talk about those islands because I know that when I was sitting down with you and we were watching that, well, you know that was something that you and I both pointed out right away. But yeah, I almost felt like that was a rerun of them using core memories that were up at the top. Or
Yeah, in the first film.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know. Like it's like I feel like there's more to plumb there, but it's like, did they just not know where to go?
Maybe, for sure.
Yeah.
And coming back to your comment, Amy, about the different parts that were represented by emotions. Yeah, that did seem.
I know they
odd to me.
explained it in the movie, so at least there was that. Like anxiety said, I'm like to control the things in the future, and fears to control the things right now. But I actually think they're like very, very closely intertwined. Where I'm like, why do you need two separate characters for that?
Yeah.
It just makes it so that there's like too many emotions. There's too many characters.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like in terms of being able to represent an experience for this individual, the emotion characters, you thought there was too many. At first, I thought you were talking about characters in the film, not in Riley's head.
Well, I guess they're technically characters.
Yeah.
Well, and you pointed out something which is also very true, that and I think that it's important to point out that anxiety itself, that's a diagnosis,
right?
Whereas now, like it's entered the popular zeitgeist, and one would wonder, like, if you were to use the word, like if we were to make this film 10, 20, and 30, or even 100 years ago, how would the language be different, and how would that inform the film?
Sure. Like I'm quite sure that character would be nervousness and not anxiety. Nervousness is a natural emotion. Anxiety is when we become to a state of illness. We say I'm really feeling very anxious. We use that all the time. We also say I'm feeling very depressed. It's just, to be depressed, you need to have experienced it for a minimum of 2 weeks, without actually shifting out of that state.
So I mean, from there, like, even though we say that this film is very positive, do you think it's almost encouraging, almost like a self-diagnosis thing within the general population?
Although thought, when Riley in this film is becoming overwhelmed, is she actually in a state in which actually she's experiencing illness?
I would argue no. Well, I mean, like, maybe she's experiencing acute anxiousness, but I wouldn't say like she's ill, because as we've talked about before, you need to have it for a longer period of time. But I would wonder, because if you think about it, if her parents have like this toxic positivity, and if you look at the fact that the primary emotion for the mother is sadness. The primary emotion for the father is anger.
Yeah.
So is there somewhere in there where maybe there's a mental health history of, or predisposition towards, anxiety for both of them?
You know, it's an interesting thing that I read about the mother and father having sadness and anger, is that the mother having sadness as her like lead emotion is like empathetic. So that's like the positive side of it. And the father having anger, he's protective. So that's kind of like the positive side of it. Our emotions are there to protect us and to like help us through life.
They're there to have a function, for sure.
Well, absolutely. And that falls right in line with internal family systems, in the sense that, it's about finding these emotions, finding a more constructive way, like what we resist, persist, what we accept, transform.
So then that becomes a bit of a difficulty, because in this film, anxiety was portrayed as the bad guy.
well,
Kind of.
well,
What I liked about this film was that it didn't like. I mean, in a lot of ways, it did repeat itself, but it didn't repeat the exact same rhetoric as the last film. The last film was joy picking on sadness. We don't want sadness, go away. Whereas in this film, none of the characters ever said we need anxiety to go away. We don't want anxiety here because Joy had learned her lesson. Instead, it was like, how do we coexist with anxiety? Because anxiety took over and kicked all the other emotions out.
Yeah. Anxiety was a firefighter.
Yeah.
Oh, fully. Yeah. And you almost wonder to that point how many of us almost need to relearn lessons again as we age and as our brain grows.
On that specific note, as you bring that up, Amy, one of the very first things that happened in the film was Joy was launching memories out into the void.
Yeah.
The ones that are like, well, no, this isn't one that's very positive or good for us. We're going to launch it out in the
We're going
void.
to repress it.
And I said to Trent immediately, I was like, I thought that she learned her lesson to stop being a manager.
I guess
So
not.
some of it, Joy was still learning, I think, and maybe that's the way to say it. That she had learned a certain part of that lesson with sadness, and now they work together. But she still had to learn that all of the parts of life are still needing to be incorporated. My opinion is that at the center, that I'm a good person, that actually does represent a fundamental issue that comes out in anxiety. And that she wasn't sleeping. She had her mind racing. Like, there's some key things. It is a small window of time, but I think that they were trying to represent someone who is experiencing illness at that point.
Well,
and how do we move through that?
Maybe the repressed memories brought anxiety, because like not only is she going through puberty and changes, but if she's repressing her emotions and then suddenly there's this big change in her life, then it's like, oh, you need a new manager to take over to be able to help with all these repressed emotions.
Yeah, well, and they're again too, how, I don't know about you, but I've had clients that they have an experience that all of these repressed emotions, these repressed memories do come flooding back, and then it's okay, how do we go through and then contextualize these, especially too, even with sometimes, as we've talked about, like with kids when they're really young, because they don't understand things. Like, let's say there's something that goes on within the family, they'll instantly blame themselves. So that's where you have to use the adult self to kind of go inside and say, no, you were a child, look at it that way, and reparent.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's interesting that you say, Amy, that anxiety came out as a new manager. I do agree with you absolutely. Those other memories were not incorporated, and so they weren't incorporated into her belief about self, in which she had the ability to accept herself with her flaws. Instead, as a good person, she had to be perfect, and she wasn't living up to that anymore. With she was in a conflict point. That is to say, what does it mean to be good enough? Performing at hockey, how is that in conflict with the way I'm treating my friends? So if I'm living one rule and pushing really hard on that, I'm actually breaking another rule that involves me being a good person as well.
Yeah. And this almost brings up, because the idea of justified and unjustified guilt and shame. Like, because I think for a lot of people, sometimes you can either lean into where I don't have any guilt and shame, or I'm overdone with guilt and shame, where the idea of unjustified guilt and shame is the idea of, have I actually hurt somebody, or maybe my implicit rule needs to change.
Yeah, one of the big things that happened for me in the film, well, two things. One was I was overanalyzing it to begin with, knowing that we were probably going to do this podcast, and finally I went, just be entertained, just let it happen.
Yeah, like, and I think you and I both cried at the same point in the movie, where at the very end of the movie, and when I saw it, because I saw it for the second time with you, because first time I was like, the minute it came out, I was like, I'm going to see this now. But yeah, like, where all of the emotions came together, and I'm like, that was true self energy.
And when all of the memories were allowed to be part of the her experience.
Yeah, and you know what I really liked too, when Riley was going through her moment of anxiety. I don't know if you would. Do we know enough to call that a panic attack when she was in the penalty box?
Oh yeah, well it looked much
Make
like
me
it.
feel panicked.
Fair enough. I liked the fact that she breathed. She got into the moment. She noticed what was around her. She felt the sunshine, and then that's what brought out joy. I don't know.
And her friends came back, and she's able to reconnect with them.
And make a repair. Own things that she'd done that weren't okay. Own her feelings. I was afraid. You're going to be gone. I don't have you anymore. Now I'm going to have to find new friends. Totally.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. Do we want to go back to the islands?
Sure. Let me just reconnect, because I said there was two things. So that part was of me saying, just be let it happen, just be entertained. The other thing was actually that core position of I'm a good person. I think that there's probably a lot of people that live this experience. Certainly, I'd say I lived this experience, and anything that got in that way, in which it's like, oh well, this would make me a bad person. I tried to reject. I pushed it away. I got angry. I wasn't able to find that without first being able to go, you know what, actually this, you don't need to be this. You know, like there's more to what a good person is than just never making a mistake.
Absolutely. And I think that brings up a really important point, that what they do in the movie, like where they're like, I'm a good person, and then they also say all of those other things. I would have rather it go, I'm a good person, but I can also da 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 da. Whereas that is the core, but then all of these other parts are hanging off of it like a tree.
Yeah.
Well, that is kind of what happened. Like when Joy was trying to put the old, when Joy came back and she's trying to replace the anxiety person with the old, like I'm a good person, it wasn't quite working. And she's like, wait, we need to let a new one grow with all of the flooded and repressed emotions. And it changed into several different types of like ideas of who she was.
Yeah, I saw that. I just thought that it would, like, rather than all of them be individual, would have rather, because like where they make different sentences, I would have just preferred like a yes and to maybe make that a little bit more explicit. But that's
more simplified.
I'm not a bad person because of whatever. Yes, I'm a good person, and I've done this and I've done that. What have I actually learned from it? You know, how have I grown?
Yeah, and like that to me, like I'm okay, and I asked this to you in the theater. I'm like, okay, are all the emotions in the amygdala? Yeah, maybe.
But you were talking about the islands.
Yes, good point. Yeah, because the one thing that we notice is that if you remember all the islands from the previous film, Family Island has shrunk in importance.
Yeah.
And her statue on the Family Island is standing away from her parents.
Yeah. I forgot, Trent. I forgot.
Yeah, no.
Let's do this thing.
Yeah, because as we've talked about, like from Hold On to Your Kids with Gabor Mate and all that jazz, this is really a North American concept of the fact that as children age, that they're supposed to move away from family, and that friends are supposed to form more of the core idea of who they are,
the primary attachment figures.
Yes, which one would wonder, is that the conceit of the film? Because if family was the more secure primary attachment figure, with her friends moving away, it wouldn't have caused as much of a disruption.
Yeah. No, I really like this. Now, the one thing, just in terms of clarity, Gabor Mate worked on Hold On to Your Kids. It's just the primary author is Gordon Neufeld, just so we give the proper credit.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. Now, you took that to another level, which I really appreciate. You pointed out something that I can see now. first, let's make the reference clear. That is, before 1950, there was no such thing as peer focused attachment, peer oriented attachment. That's something that happened after World War II, likely as a result of a whole bunch of injured, mostly men, but women as well, that came back and were traumatized and weren't able to properly attach within their families. So we see in the 1950s, kind of centered in California, an explosion of popular culture and peer-oriented attachment. We become who we're most attached to. There's only 2 times in life that we go through dramatic change, 0 to 6, and then during puberty. Those times are the times in which who we are attached to essentially wires who we are. So we don't actually want teens to be primarily attached to other teens, or else they're not going to learn. How can a 13-year-old know what to teach another 13-year-old about being an adult? That's just not possible.
Yeah, we got Lord of the Flies then.
Yeah, for sure. So then immediately when we're watching the film together and it showed Riley's islands and her family island had shrunk, I went, oh, that's bad. Like they're representing this as as what is natural. It's normal, but normal is not natural. It is the norm in our society. So the whole, and this is the part that I just realized is saying this, they showed that was not a coincidence. It was just before she was in the car with her friends, and then there was that scene in which they're like, uh-oh, something's going on, and she realizes they're going to be moving. It essentially meant that her primary attachment figures were going to be out of her life, and now she's insecure. And I think you're correct. If her parents were her primary attachment figures, it would be hard for her friends to leave. But it wouldn't have been so destabilizing.
Absolutely.
That was amazing right there.
Yeah. Thank you. I just, yeah, honestly, that just came to me in the moment. I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah, and so since her friends are going to be leaving, she's at this new place with a bunch of other kids at it, and she's like, I need to fit in so that I can create a new attachment.
Absolutely, yeah. So then she has an anxious attachment style. Ding, ding, ding. So she does have anxiety. Well,
it is a trigger point in which, in that period of time, she was experiencing anxiety. Anxiety popped out immediately after she found out her friends weren't going to be there. That is an attachment injury response. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we should explain like the different attachment styles. So so you can have secure attachment where you have basically with your attachment figures, like where they're responsive to you and they are there for you when things happen. You can have anxious attachment style where you're afraid of like that they're not going to be there. And security, you can have disorganized attachment, or you can have, what is the third one? I always remember that.
Yeah, I think you may be correct. I haven't delved that much into the specific framework around it.
Or indifferent. That's what it is. You can have an indifferent one where you have basically a cold attachment figure. And then you can have disorganized. And disorganized is actually one of the most challenging ones, because what disorganized is where, because for a lot of us, we're evolutionarily wired to go to our attachment figure for help and safety. If you want like a visual understanding of this, look up Circle of Security. But what happens is that your attachment figure can actually be somebody who can be physically or psychologically threatened to you. So you have, basically a dual understanding of them. You have this biological drive to be, oh, I need to go to this person for safety. But then there's another part of you that is distinctly saying, no, do not go to this person. They're dangerous. So it's really this tug of war, and it can be very destabilizing for a lot of people.
Another word for that I've heard is trauma bonding, which a lot of people think, oh, we are bonding over the same trauma. But what trauma bonding means is actually like whoever I'm attached to has given me trauma, or has perhaps in extreme cases like abused me. But I have to be like connected with them in order to like survive.
It's interesting. I haven't heard of that one before. Like I understood trauma bonding to be people who were have a similar shared experience.
Yeah, and that's what you said in the first part, where
Yeah.
most people see it in that way. That's
Well, maybe I'm
interesting.
wrong then, but maybe it's used in different ways.
Could be. Yeah.
Which is confusing because
Like,
they're two very different things.
Like one of the things that we were careful about within running groups, so running groups for individuals that had perpetrated domestic violence, is not having people do exactly what you're talking about. At the time, they used a certain set of words that I don't agree with now. They said, don't let them go victim. But why? This group of people that are that have committed harmful acts in domestic violence, actually, that's where it came from. It came from their own trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the difficulty is not having people only connect based on that. So it's like, oh, you're like me because your dad whipped you. Now there's a place in which like we can create understanding. At the same time, we want the focus not to be the focus on the past, but the focus on how do we heal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What tools or resources do you need in order to heal?
Mm-hmm. And in which case, actually, as I think this through in the group setting, there was always male and female that facilitated any domestic violence group. And what are the core components of psychotherapy? They are the environmental holding shell that you create, which from Carl Rogers is all about safety and security. So then if you have this pairing of male female and you have a group of people that historically have been traumatized, you actually in the room as facilitators become that representation of the people that were in power in their life. And who was that? Their mother and their father.
So then you're going back through there and just possibly doing reparenting, but I haven't had that happen. The reparenting maybe, but I was going to say like transference. Have you ever had transference happen in a group?
Yeah, there was someone that I was actually a bit afraid. I was very careful watching over my shoulder when I left the building at night because of the negative energy that moved towards me. And I'm quite sure that it was a power dynamic that would have potentially been with their father. Because these individuals, of course, if mom and dad weren't able to provide safety, then who would they have connected to? So if they connected to their peers before they get into a group format, what we don't want is that same dynamic in which they solely connect with their peers, because the parts that would be connecting would not be mature parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I'm speaking your language.
No, you are, and now I'm just thinking about going back to the film. Okay, like let's say Riley, is brought into one of us,
You mean for us to provide therapy?
for us to provide therapy, or what? Yeah, like what would be your first approach?
Wow. That's a big question.
Yeah, it just came to. I mean, if it, yeah.
I think. Do you have an idea? Because maybe you start answering your question.
Okay. Well,
Are you gonna die, Amy? Are you dead?
So
Start choking on water.
I mean, first of all, from my point of view, I want to make sure that she's able to ground and stabilize herself. Of course, which I mean, she's shown that she's able to do, because we want to be able to keep anxiety calm, which of course the other emotions kind of do in her head. But then I really want to get to know the parents. I want to know like what the heck is going on here, because that to me, like, I'll be honest, I don't want to see a third film. I think that this is wonderful in what it is.
I want to see a third film.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fair. But if they were to do a third film, I want them to go more into the head of the parents, and I want to know a little bit more about what's going on with them and how, because from an internal family systems perspective, they showed a little bit in the film, but it's not only about your parts that get interacted, but it's also about the parts in other people that get interacted. And I want to see that getting linked up a little bit more, where maybe Riley gains that understanding or different things like that. And that would be sort of like my third step. If this family were to come and see me, where I would be teaching them about, okay, like what's going on inside of you, how are you raising them, like when Riley has these emotions or these feelings, what's coming up in you.
Yeah, that's interesting, because as I think about it, as you speak and I have a chance to reflect, it reminds me of some actual families that I've had come in. And the tricky part is being able to help parents, what's the word that I'm looking for? Reprogram their programming without being blaming. Like, so not saying this is your fault or anything, but really actually a lot of times I've come to a place with parents of saying, I want you to hear some facts and some information that is not well known in our society. And I talk to them about behaviorism being the primary mode that has driven things for a long time. And then I share with them interpersonal neurobiology about how people form, and help them to know that actually we get formed from the outside in, and our society actually doesn't know. At this point in time, our Western society has no idea how to help little people become well functioning adults. And then I present the idea of attachment-based parenting. Be really clear that this teenager is actually in a time where they need you, and you need to be more important than their friends. And I'd like for you to read this book called Hold On to Your Kids. Be very compassionate when you do that, because I know for myself, when I read it, I felt very guilty for not doing what my kids needed, but I didn't know until I knew. Isn't that right, Amy?
You didn't know until you knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I that I'll be honest, that's a clunky sentence, but that I think, yeah, because I've worked with clients before that sometimes, yeah, like there can be that internalized guilt and shame, whereas we don't want to do that. We want to promote growth.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What about for you, Amy? Like what do you think would be like the big thing for, like, if you were to look at, do we even know Riley's last name?
It is stated, but I forget.
Okay, so if we were to look at
Sanchez. I'm pretty sure it's not Sanchez, but
yeah,
Johnson.
okay, Smith.
Probably.
I think it is some sort of very white name. But anyway.
Well, she's a very white person, so.
Yeah.
Johansson.
So I don't
Dang,
know.
huh?
Yeah. So what, like, if you were to look at that, like, what do you think, like, is the big thing? Like, if Riley were to enter therapy, like, what do you think her goals should be?
Should be, or what do I think her goals would be? Because as a therapist, you don't necessarily think this is what your goals should be, client. You go based off of what the client wants their goals to be.
All right.
Well, you co-create them.
Yeah.
Yes. Good point. Passing your practical.
Well, based on what she thinks is important in the movie, it seems like she, like you said, really wants some sort of like attachment, and for her it might be friends, but maybe what might be important is family therapy to help get that attachment between her and her parents.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't know. I wonder, maybe you would know this, Jeremy, because Riley's like an only child. Like, is there some data out there where it comes with like only children versus children that have siblings in terms of issues with attachment?
That is fascinating for sure. There definitely is information to be able to exactly quote that. We know that the individual that grows up as an only child has less other attachment processes. Like often, and not always, but often there are siblings that become very connected with each other, and insofar as that attachment doesn't become a competition with their parents, then they just simply have more eggs in their attachment basket. We also know that individuals who there's a long gap, and then they're the youngest, they have like an only child type attachment process that happens for them as well. So yeah, that's a good. I never thought about her being an only child. You could say maybe she was a lonely child.
Yeah, well, and I don't know, like, because and also too, if you think about it, she's had two like kind of moves and attachment disruptions in a kind of a short period of time, because in the first film she was 11, they moved
To California.
and then and then she found these kids, her friends, and then she attached to them, and then now within the space of a couple of years after she's been stabilized, now there's another attachment disruption.
Yeah.
So I don't know. In my mind, it was like, I don't know. Like on my second or third film, I'm like, what if they introduced like, I don't know. I could definitely see like where it's like, Disney film, like where they like introduce like a younger sibling and then Riley's reaction to that. Maybe I don't know.
I want to see a third film where she goes to college. Maybe partly because I'm still finishing my degree, but I want to see like the adult emotions.
If she's come to an adult stance, that's the
Yeah.
thing. So many of us
Yeah.
are adults, but there's lots of parts of us that are not.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm speaking about myself.
By the way, it was so. Speaking about when you're talking about adult parts, did you like with nostalgia? I know it was played as a joke, but where nostalgia was trying to come up, and they were trying to repress nostalgia.
That reminds me. I'm feeling a little like maybe not in the loop. Ennui. What was
It's
ennui?
a French emotion.
Well, no, like ennui.
Well, it's
like,
a French word.
Yeah, what does it actually mean though?
Like ennui is like basically like boredom.
Was it though?
I actually felt like they got that emotion wrong because when I looked up the definition, it did not line up with
What's
how
the
it was in
definition?
the movie. Let me look up the definition right now so I don't get a mess.
Because ennui, that was just weird. That's certainly not a word I know. And it seemed to be like attitude. That's what it seemed to be. Teenage attitude. That's what it seemed to be.
Yeah, or yeah, because of course it was ennui that brought out the sarcasm.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so a feeling of weariness and dissatisfaction or boredom. But in the way that like it describes it when I Google it, it seems kind of like almost like tired or depressed type of emotion, but the way that they depicted it in the movie was more like attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, okay, and I wonder there too, like are the filmmakers almost falling into the trap of like again to saying that this is what teenagers
Are normal.
Yeah.
And then that might be normal, but that doesn't mean it's natural.
Yeah, whereas I don't know, like I mean, okay, like she's developing more emotional granularity, maybe like more complex emotions, but like yeah, I don't like the fact that like why does joy not get a counterpart? Like it's almost like they're saying that.
Well, what about excitement? What about
Anxiety is excitement. Anxiety and excitement have the same physiological responses,
but they feel different.
but they can easily turn into one another.
Like you could be like, wait a minute, these physical signs in my body, maybe I can, from a cognitive position, see this as excitement. Maybe too often when I feel these physical sensations, I automatically assume or jump to I'm anxious. Maybe that's not the way I'm feeling. Totally. certainly the alarm system that happens in your body.
Speaking of alarm system, for those of you that are maybe struggling with your internal alarm system for various things, Jeremy has a wonderful hypnosis script on our podcast that if you're struggling with your internal alarm system, that you might want to check out.
Thanks for the plug
Yeah,
for us.
You're welcome.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Is there any other burning thoughts? Any other burning questions?
Feels like it's wrapped
Going
up
from
to me.
like a design standpoint, I noticed that like the emotion envy is like smaller than all the other emotions, and like design wise she doesn't have as many features. She has like one less finger than the other emotions. She doesn't have a nose.
One less finger?
Yeah, I think she only has like 4 fingers and the other emotions have 5.
You know, that's actually something. Maybe we should get into the design of the new characters.
And embarrassment is really big.
You know, and that's one thing is that like if you contrast envy and embarrassment you feel like you're seen too much, whereas
Yeah,
envy
I need to
you
hide.
want to be noticed.
Yeah. She's like really little and has to like jump up onto the control panel to be able to control it. And embarrassment has a hoodie on and is always trying to hide and doesn't speak.
But yeah, did you notice though with embarrassment, which I would say embarrassment was an avatar of sadness, that embarrassment was also empathetic,
Yes.
which is what I do appreciate about these movies that they look at what we would say a lot of the emotions that we try to push away that can actually be the most helpful. I'm trying to think what else, but
I feel like embarrassment was like the most helpful one out of like the new emotions when all the other emotions got kicked out.
Fair enough. And like you noticed that too, like when embarrassment like took the pencil and was like putting it in the holes in the jar.
Oh yeah.
So they could breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts about like any of the exile thoughts besides like the big deep dark secret?
I thought it was interesting how some of the suppressed emotions were joy. Like some of the orbs were yellow. And I was like, why would you want to suppress a happy
You mean
emotion?
the memories, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, not emotions. Memories. I'm still very tired. Didn't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if you think about it, like the child thing that was like almost like Blue's Clues, and then it was the video game character. It's like, oh, I can't like that because of the memory that's attached to that.
Right. But there was joy at one point in time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because she played the video game with her friends, so maybe it's suppressed now because she has to detach from her friends.
And I also liked how anxiety was using the imagination to come up with scenarios, which I think speaks to the fact that sometimes that's where you, from the CBT perspective, you kind of look at it and go, how realistic is this?
Totally.
Yeah. They may not win the gold medal, but or be rained with kittens. But overall, yeah. What did you guys? What's your big takeaways from our conversation today?
My big takeaways is actually coming back to the idea of attachment and how things all fit together. With Riley's not secure enoughly attached to her parents, and as a result, she has a massive response when she has friends groups that are going to change. That's the thing that actually really stuck out to me. Understanding that flow, especially in the film, it wasn't just the family island was smaller. Family Island was smaller, and immediately after that, she finds her friends are going to be leaving. So I think that's an unintentional thing. But
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
The attachment part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I guess the suppressed emotions too.
Yeah. Suppressed emotions, definitely.
Not
memories. I keep getting that wrong.
Yeah,
the suppressed memories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I do think, like, to an extent, like her primary emotions that were there in the original movie are suppressed. They were thrown to the back of her brain. So
Yeah. They also got suppressed.
yeah. But the suppressed memories, is like, I feel like is a very important part of the movie.
No, I agree with the suppressed memories, and also I need to start wearing a fanny pack with dynamite.
I think my favorite character in that movie was Anger. Like I was just like, yeah, it's Anger again, punching things.
Although, did you notice that Anger didn't have flames this time very much?
Yeah.
So Anger, like all of them changed slightly. Like,
matured.
Yeah, matured.
Totally.
Oh, also another part of the movie that I think was significant was when Joy kind of snapped. And it was like, it's so hard being the only positive one here.
Yeah, or I'm trying to make this up as I go along. You know, like basically where I don't make plans, I just kind of react.
And at that moment in time, it seemed like it should have gone into her head with multiple parts of her.
Yeah, because the emotions feel different emotions.
You know, right? and like here's the thing. You know what I want to say? No, I'm also thinking about this. Because in IFS we talk about blended parts. I would like to see what would happen, like if, like let's say the emotions start to blend together, like where it's like what happens if like sadness and joy, you know, go together and like they create like a symbiote version of themselves.
Okay, I have one other thing that I wanted to say. I know, like, we had originally wanted to wrap this up, but I just remembered there's like a part of the movie when Anxiety is trying to get Riley up, and she's like very tired, and Anxiety's like, oh, I don't know if Riley's going to get up this time. And it was just kind of like this moment where it's like, whoa, the emotions don't always control her. Like they realize that she kind of has her own control.
Center person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, and it would be interesting to go and find the self. What was it too that you pointed out? You're like, boy, I wish I could fall asleep like that in the movie, because remember, like Riley just like after Joy and them give her a whole bunch of like positive emotions. Just, like, goes like, and I'm like, that's not the way that it works.
Yeah, I feel like after all that positivity, I would have been excited and then still unable to sleep.
Yep.
It's the excitement and the anxiety, they go together.
Yeah.
I enjoy excitement more than anxiety, though.
Me too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, I hope that everybody has enjoyed listening to us. And obviously, this is a very positive film, or well, one that I've definitely used in therapy already as examples. If you guys can't see, I do have sadness and I have anger that live here in my office.
Where's anger? Oh,
at the bottom.
My favorite emotion, anger.
Your favorite is sadness and anger?
Yeah.
Good old anger. Nothing beats anger.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Those are the only big plushies of them. I want to get big plushies of all of the emotions, but those were the only two that.
But then, you'd have a really big embarrassment, right?
Okay,
Wouldn't know where to put.
Yeah, so like I just need either joy or anxiety, because I use them as like examples of like the firefighter literally and the exile.
Yeah.
So I need joy to show the
manager. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, on that note, I'm Trent Nakers.
I'm Amy Alcorn.
And I'm Jeremy Alcorn.
See you next time.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that this message has been as meaningful to you as it has been to us. If you're looking for help, you can find us on Facebook at Humanizing Mental Health.